Okay, so hello and welcome back. Today we'll be looking at file path traversal third video. So in this video we'll be focusing on traversal sequences stripped non-recursively. So let's understand first what does this mean, okay? So understanding stripping traversal sequences. So first let's understand what is traversal. So traversal is generally something that allow us to move from the current root directory which we are in. So whenever a web server is hosting any web application, it would generally host the files or whatever the folder or images, whatever content is there. All these things will be hosted from the root directory, correct? So when we try to access the data which is not in the host directory by trying to traverse backwards, like maybe towards the etc directory, towards the root directory of the web server or outside the main server, this is what generally traversal is. Okay, so it's not just traversal, can be anything, like you're just normally trying to traverse other files or directories, but in the terms of pen testing, this is what we explain traversal as. Okay, so let's move on with understanding now what is stripping traversal sequences. Okay, so we'll just read this: to defend against this, applications often sanitize input to defend against traversal. Okay, this means to defend against traversal, applications often sanitize input. No, now let's understand what is sanitizing input. Sanitizing input means that suppose if you're providing any kind of input on the say for example through the URL or through the input field. So if it is directly parsing the input, it could lead to attacks, right? So if you are doing accesses or you're trying to access unauthorized you can say files or folders, so if the input is not sanitized, the attacker would get access to such kind of unauthorized resources, right? So hence the inputs are generally sanitized. So let's read this again: to defend against the traversal, applications often sanitize input by stripping or blocking traversal sequences, such as replacing all instances of dot forward slash with an empty string. Okay, so let's understand this in detail, like just I'll explain with an example. So normally, as we have seen in a previous video, we can traverse using forward slash, right? As we have seen, like for etc password, correct, if you remember. So this is how we are able to access the etc password file by giving the relative path, right? So this so the web application can try to try to check the input whatever we are supplying, and if it finds this pattern, which is forward slash, it will try to remove this thing, as it is said, with an empty string. So what it will do, it will map it out. So how can we bypass this thing? How can we filter out this thing? So we'll check this thing like in the further slide. We'll try to understand what it is. Okay, so now let's I hope you got this thing right, the stripping traversal sequences. So mostly the application try to remove this kind of input, that is forward slash, so that the attacker is not able to bypass this kind of vulnerabilities. Okay, so let's understand recursive and non-recursive stripping. Okay, so now let's first understand recursive stripping, then we will be able to understand what the non-recursive stripping is. So recursive stripping would repeatedly apply the removal until no traversal sequences remain. What this means, that whenever whenever we are sanitizing the input for this kind of pattern, whenever if the application is supporting recursive stripping, that means if I remove dot dot forward slash one time, the other time also I'll try to remove it. Okay, but what happens with the non-traversal non-recursive stripping is that it would not only one time it would remove that dot dot forward slash, but the next time it won't replace it. So it is just checking for like checking one time, that's it. So wait, I'll just explain this with an simple example. Okay, now say this is the input that you are giving. Okay, so the program will first try to check if there is any kind of dot dot and forward slash present. So it will start from here. So it found the input, that is dot dot forward slash, so it will remove this. Again it will start checking from here. Okay, again it found this thing, so it will remove this. Okay, then only you will be left with this thing, but this is happening only one time. That means there is non-recursive stripping, that is it will only check for one time. But if it is having recursive stripping, so suppose say if you put like this, if you put something like dot dot forward slash dot dot forward slash dot dot forward slash, something like this, so what it will do, it will remove this. On the first iteration it will remove this. Okay, on the second iteration it will remove this. On the third iteration it will check, okay, this is not there, here it is there. So here it is there, so here it will remove. Okay, okay, so again here it will check, here it is there. Okay, then it's here, then it's here. Then how many dots will remain? 2 dots will remain. Okay, so it will give you this result. So again next time, say suppose if there is 2 dot and one more forward slash left, at this time it won't check, because no there is no recursive stripping, but in there is non-recursive stripping. But if there is a recursive stripping, again when the first round is completed, for the second round again it will check if there is dot dot and forward slash. Okay, it is there, again I will remove this. Okay, so this is what recursive stripping is. And non-recursive stripping is that only one time it will check for the input and remove the dot dot forward slash pattern. Okay, so I hope you understood this, I have not confused you. But if you are confused in any way, let's move on. When we will look at the example, you will get the clarity of the recursive and non-recursive stripping. Okay. Okay, so why non-recursive stripping is vulnerable? So why this kind of non-recursive stripping is vulnerable? So let's go on with solving the lab. When we'll start with solving the lab, you'll get a better understanding of it. Okay, so now I will open the lab. So let's just log in. Okay, so this is the lab. So let's understand the lab. Okay, file path traversal sequences stripped non-recursively. Okay, so this lab contains a path traversal vulnerability. As we are already solving the path traversal vulnerabilities, it is present in the display of product images. Okay, so the application strips path traversal sequence. So what it is doing, it is stripping path traversal sequences from the user supplied file name before using it. That means it is stripping the pattern, that is dot dot forward slash, it is stripping it. To solve the lab, retrieve the content of etc password file. Okay, so we have to find the content of this file. So now let's start the lab. I've started the lab in the passwd browser itself. So as it has said that the vulnerability is present in the display of product pages. So what we will do, I'll go to proxy http history. Okay, there is not much of content, so let it be. So what we will do, I'll just open a product. Okay, so I've opened. Let's check the history. Product is there. Okay, what we will do, we'll try to turn on the intercept. I'll just go back. Okay, what now we will do, we'll turn on the intercept. Okay, I'm starting from beginning. What I've done, I've opened the lab, I've turned on the intercept. Okay, now we will click on the product. Fine, so the request has been intercepted. So let's look at the request. It says product id 1. We will forward this. Okay, so as you can see, we have got this thing that in the image inside the image directory there is a file name that is having 43.jpg file. So as we have seen in previous videos as well, so we can send this to the repeater. Okay, I've sent this request to the repeater. Now what we will do is that, like previous example, we will try to just normally give the we'll try to traverse it. Okay, so we'll just give dot 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 forward slash dot dot, and then we will give etc. Okay, and password, because as you can see in the question it says retrieve the contents of the etc password file. So normally how we are traversing, I'll try to traverse it that way. Okay, let's send the request. So it says bad request. Okay, let's try to send this again it is saying bad request. So maybe as the lab says that it can be stripping the input. Okay, so let's again open this. I'll open my notepad again. So suppose if the stripping is enabled, if I'm providing this kind of input, what it is doing, it is stripping out the input, that is it is removing this thing. Again it found the pattern, again it is removing this thing, again it found the pattern, again it is removing this thing. So only this thing is being passed as the input. Now how can we bypass that? So say if it is present like this, what we will do, we can place your cursor here, we'll put two more dots and a forward slash. Again we can do the same thing, two more dots and forward slash. I'll explain what we are doing it here. Again I'll do two more dots and forward slash. So just keep this thing in mind. If non-recursive okay, non-recursive traversal is enabled, okay, then what will happen is that only one time, okay, keep this thing in mind, only one time input sanitation will happen. Only one time input sanitization will happen. That means the function will start testing. Okay, here there is a dot, here there is a dot. Okay, fine, here there is a dot, here there is a dot, here there is a forward slash. Okay, that means we have to remove this thing, so it will remove this one time. Again what we'll do, okay, it is here, it is dot, here it is dot, here it is forward slash. Okay, so it will remove this pattern. Again what it will do, look for dot dot dot, okay, forward slash, it will remove this thing. Okay, so it will only do this thing one time. So this is what the input will be passed. So maybe if we do like this, we can pass this kind of input and get the response. Okay, so let's try to do the same thing here. What I'll do, we'll put two dot one forward slash, two dot one forward slash, 2.1 forward slash. Okay, good to go. Let's send the request. See, we got the response. It says okay, and we got the content, we got the passwords, as you can see. So this is how you can do the solve the lab. So what it is doing, this means that it is just removing the input one time. That means non-recursive, it is non-recursively doing it. Okay, so let's forward the request, turn off. Okay, Let's try to see. Send. Okay, let's go here. Try to refresh it. Okay, so we got congratulations, you solved the lab. Okay, I hope you understood it. If you have any doubts, any question, please feel free to add the questions in the comment so I can personally look at the comments at your queries also and give you a reply. Okay, so thank you for watching. Have a good day ahead.